Do I have any objections to starting 2 minutes early?
Honestly, I think we should wait just in case somebody else
Okay.
said something right at 6:30. I think it's.
Okay, oh yeah, that's there. It is.
Is there any way we could have the video on?
Yeah. Not at this point.
Do you just need somebody to IT it for you?
We can talk about
Since everybody's here, they do a bunch of issues again.
it. You're already recording, aren't you? Yeah, oh, okay. It's 6:30 and I'd like to call the John Day City Council meeting of June 25th, 2024 to order. We've already, yeah, let's do it. Everybody stand and take off your hats. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Okay, all councilors are present. Are there any amendments to the agenda, the regular agenda? No. Hearing none, I'll ask.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
Chris made the motion, Eric seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous. Public comments. I'm gonna read my thing again. Public comments are an opportunity to present information or speak on an issue that is not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes for each person. Visitors may state their comments and should not expect the council to engage in back and forth dialogue regarding the comment. Council may either choose to add it to a follow-up meeting or direct the manager to follow up with the speaker. I will open for public comments. Are there any public comments tonight? Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm not really caught up on everything, as far as
Yeah.
city.
Can you
stand and state?
Could you
Stand?
stand and state your name, please?
My name is Colton Osborne. I live on 409 South East Hillcrest. So the new kind of homeless encampment that's popping up over there, is that something that's on the agenda to be discussed anytime soon?
It will. It will be a topic that I'm sure we'll be discussing at some point.
I can address some of it under my city
Could you?
manager comments at the end of the meeting.
Okay. All right, anything else? Anybody else? Anybody online? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. All matters listed in the consent agenda have been distributed to every member of the city council for reading and study, are considered routine, and will be enacted by one motion of council. If separate discussion is desired, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on a regular agenda by request. We have the accounts payable through June 18th and the minutes of May 14th and May 21st on the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
I can second.
Eric makes the motion, Eric second, I'm Ron second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous. Okay, moving on. The budget, the actual budget.
Budget deck statement.
Rob.
I won't spend a lot of time presenting this unless you guys have specific questions, but really the story hasn't changed since the last time I presented to you. We're still expending at in some areas higher than budget, like administration in the general fund, and then also in streets capital outlay. And I think you guys are aware of the reasons for all of those or both of those. Streets capital outlay. So I won't belabor the point on that. Everything else looks fine at this point. And then this does give you in your packets the current period actuals, so you can see our current month expenditures.
Thank you, Rob. Do you have a question?
Rob, you mentioned already, but
Yeah.
I know some administration has 105,286.77, or 67% over.
Yeah,
What's going on?
no, that's gonna be your consultant fees, legal fees. There's also misallocations in there, so it's probably not really 105, but I can't tell you what number it actually is this juncture.
Any other questions for Rob? Thank you, Rob. Okay, and on to the fiscal year 24-25 budget. I will, do you want to open?
You have to,
Oh, okay, I'll open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for 24-25 City of John Day budget.
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, now's the time. If you have any, all those in favor, all those in favor. I know.
It's been a Monday.
Unanimous. Okay, I will open public comment. Does anybody have any comments on the budget? Hearing none. I will ask the council, do you have any questions? I'll close the public hearing.
I move that we close the public.
Okay. And second-
Sure.
Okay, Ed seconds.
Is there anybody online? that
No, I'm
indicated?
looking and nobody's raising their hand or.
Okay,
All right, Counselors,
Oh,
all those in favor? Aye. Thank you. I apologize to you guys. I'm not 100% tonight. Okay. Do the counselors have any discussion on the budget? Any question?
Yeah, I wasn't at the budget meeting. I voiced my opposition in an email to city manager and the entire council. But I am against the budget item giving money to the county for services that the citizens of John Day are already currently paying for, and forcing them to pay an additional fee for the services they're already paying for, being the sheriff. That's my opposition to that particular part. The other thing I didn't see in the budget was any clarity on the grant to finish the broadband to all the residents in John Day. I know that we have the grant available. Originally, the grant wasn't in there. It's my understanding it is now.
mhm.
So understand there's a match. I don't see anything in there where it addresses that.
Are you referring to the EDA grant for the 207,000?
216.
It's
Yes, it's on, page 21, the budget, under grant revenue, line 44661. We have, 1.265 million budgeted. And the 65,000 is for the BTAP grant.
Yep.
And the 1.2 million matches on page 23, the $1.4 million EDA grant. And so built in there is the $200,000.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just because this is in my wheelhouse and I've got background, I understand some of the more, there's a narrative going around about, okay, citizens are already paying for law enforcement, so why should they have to pay more for additional law enforcement, to pay twice, if you will? Well, I guess you'd be asking that question of every city in the nation who has a city police department. But really what it comes down to in John Day is we are not getting the services that we got when we had a police department. A city for public safety within a city looks different than it does in a rural area. And the services that are provided by the sheriff are not the same as the services provided by, say, a city police officer or somebody funded and agreed to through, say, an IGA with a sheriff's office to specifically do city, take care of city priorities. When you have high density populations, you might have a similar number of people, but the fact that they live in close proximity to each other creates a series of other challenges that you don't have in the rural areas. And I'm talking in very general terms in that right now. And then the other thing is we have a lot of ordinances. And ordinances require, like any law, if you don't have the ability to enforce an ordinance, it's not worth the ink on the paper. So, and one of the challenges is the sheriff's office isn't going to enforce any city ordinances, none. And they're under no obligation to, and we do not pay them to enforce any city ordinances. We did away with that. We did away with that. And as far as the priorities go in the community, where we want to focus our public safety efforts, the problems we want to make priority for our community. That's not necessarily, I can tell you right now, that's not the priority of the county sheriff. And good guy, but he's got to worry about full county. If we want priority set in this community, we have to pay for it. And if we want our ordinances enforced, we have to pay for it. And in fact, the council was promised it was gonna be paid for when they dissolved the police department, if you read the resolution from October 21. But unfortunately, the council was given bad information by staff. Council was told that the cops grant could be transferred to the sheriff's office, which would have provided up to 3 police positions. So that was the information the council had when they dissolved the police department in 2021. Unfortunately, nobody bothered to ask DOJ cops about that. Because if they had, they would have known that you can't do that. You can't transfer. After a grant's been awarded, you can't transfer it from an awardee to a different entity. They just won't do it. So we were left with nothing when we were told we were going to have something. So that is why we need to continue to look. And I understand there's a lot of history in John Day about how the police department was funded and whether or not it was right to use monies from, say, Public Works to fund some of the police department. And I don't want to go back and rehash that. But if a police department is not sustainable, you have to cut back the services, and then you have to give the people the best service you can with the money you have. And we're not doing that at all. We're not. We're just saying we don't do public safety in John Day. That's the sheriff's problem, and the sheriff just does public safety stuff. So it's a quality of life issue. City police generally deal a lot with the little things that make a big difference in a community. And people are not going to want to come here, live here, and we're not going to grow if we don't have any public, if we can't articulate to people that want to relocate here a public safety capacity and show how we make this a safe community. I hadn't been a crime victim in 30 years. The first month I lived here, I came back. I was a crime victim. Somebody stole my rent check when I was renting a space down at the fairgrounds out of their drop box. Some tweaker at 2 o'clock in the morning and stole my, so I had to, you know, it wasn't out any money, but I had to change my checking accounts and everything else. So I don't like that feeling. And I'm sure nobody else does either. I care about people's peace of mind. I care about the quality of life in this community. And you aren't going to get there from here with a sheriff's office that has no additional resources. Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Have to be recognized by the chair.
Oh, no.
Like,
So, yeah. So that's my monologue. And again, I have some background in this. I tried to be objective about it. I do have a bias towards public safety. I worked for 2 sheriffs in 30 years. I worked for 2 sheriff's offices and 2 city police departments. And I've been everything from a street cop to a chief of police. So I understand the differences and I understand the dynamics, especially and the debates over resourcing public safety. Public safety, it's really, really hard to measure what you prevent. You can go measure the crimes that occur, but they've already occurred. It's hard to measure what you prevent. There are ways to do it, but it's hard. It's hard work. And so that's my speech for the evening on law enforcement, unless somebody has a question. But
Thank you.
I think it's
Thank you. Yes, Chris.
I lived here over 60 years, never had any problems with anybody stealing anything or doing anything to me. So
Well, you're very lucky.
I think most people in this community would say the same thing. But correct me if I'm wrong, didn't the people of John Day vote to have no city police?
no, they actually voted for it. But the election,
Now,
no, let me finish. Let me respond. It passed. They voted and it passed, but the election was planned during a non-general election event. And I had this conversation with the former mayor who asked me about what I thought. And I told him, nobody puts a ballot measure for money on a non-general election cycle because you never get 50%. If you don't get 50% on a money ballot measure, no matter how much of a majority you have with the people that vote, it doesn't count. It has to reach 50%. And so there's an argument, well, not enough people care. Well, maybe they didn't understand, maybe they didn't have time, but I will tell you, the majority of people who voted for it.
I agree, but the majority,
Just like the majority of the people that voted to recall our last mayor. And she was recalled. That wasn't a map, that wasn't a money measure. Right? So
That's
where's,
totally different subject.
no, I'm using it as an example of the difference between the two. That everybody can relate to.
If people wanted city police in this community, they would have turned out to vote. We would have had at least 50% voting, but we did not. 50% of the people chose not to vote.
I think the people voted in November of 22.
Well,
But the other thing that you have to take into consideration there, Eric, is that the anti-police levy coalition that was fighting against it specifically in their signage and in their statements said a non-vote is the same as a no vote. So if you don't vote, it equals no. That was advertised to the community, that was advertised to the public. So you can't tell me that that doesn't count for something in the fact that it failed, because it
I
most
can't-
certainly does.
I can't speak to what people saw on signs or how they understood it, but I can say that the majority of people who voted for it. That's a fact. So I just can't go, interpret. And I know people had different narratives and everybody was vying for whatever at the time. I'm just telling you based on my experience.
did the sheriff get everything he wanted this year?
You have to ask the sheriff that question.
We did. He got 5 deputies. Assistant sheriff, or under sheriff, and a sheriff, 2 sergeants. More than he's ever had.
That's not true.
Okay.
I don't believe the city of John Day should be ending up paying more money for something they already get. And the majority of people in Grant County are in the same situation as we are. They have ordinances just like we do. They seem to be handling it. Yeah, sure, we get the most calls. We should. I think they're doing a great job.
Okay, I have one question from the audience.
We've already had public hearing.
You closed the public hearing. There-
Okay,
So,
All right.
so I have something that I need to say here, and it's an email. Right, and this is something that I think is important to put into context. So. And I'm not going to talk about who the email was to. because
Is
it
this
was-
a public comment?
No,
Somebody outside this council?
no.
You
This
said
is
email.
no, it is not.
Okay, it's not an email?
No, it's an email, but it's not an email about this.
Is
It's
it
an
from
email
somebody
about
outside this
public.
council?
Okay, Chris, let me finish.
Is it off
Objection.
subject of what we're doing?
It's an
right here?
email to you, Mr. Holland.
What's that?
It's an email to you,
It's an email to me.
to you. It's a public record. It was in your inbox. You want me to read it? It was forwarded to you, and that's why it was a public record. So I'm not gonna read the whole thing, because most of it,
Is it pertinent to what we're talking about?
yes, it is.
Because if it's not part of the budget and it's not part of this law enforcement issue, then it's out of line to be brought up at this meeting at this point,
Okay,
and you should stop it.
and that's fair, except it is about a law enforcement issue. It is about public safety in this community. And I'm gonna read just that part. So we won't go into the other stuff. I believe I've captured the other terms, except for the ordinance allowing shooting on private property within the city limits. I don't think the council can agree to that in this type of document. They would have to pass it first and then reference the ordinance, period. Or ... You could just do it anyway, since we don't have a police department to enforce it and nobody cares. That was to you. So, I mean,
okay,
I can't control what.
no, I'm not
See,
picking on you, Dave. I am telling you that is words out of the former city manager's mouth. Public record.
okay. All right,
So if we want to talk
Over
about
an
law
ea-
enforcement,
Over an easement issue concerning purple
it's
pipe.
over committing a felony crime in the city limits and saying we don't have a police department and nobody will enforce it.
this has to do
Wow.
with the police.
This has to do with you protested the police in the budget, Dave. And
All right,
this was to you.
okay, all right, that's enough.
Thank you.
I don't know what made you change your mind, David, because you said in a meeting that if we had the funds,
No,
you would put, I have it on a recording, Dave.
Sherry, let
Yes.
me correct you, please.
Mhm,
Okay?
mhm.
I said in a motion to this council, which was seconded and passed, that the city of John Day would be willing to work with the county on a countywide solution to the sheriff funding issue, but that the city of John Day was not willing to pay for their lack of funds. That was my motion. That's what I said. That's what I said that we would agree to, and the council voted on it. The original contract that the sheriff's department gave to us gave us no control over the deputy, his schedule, how much he was in John Day. The sheriff could use him anywhere, anytime, whenever he needed him. And that this is the original contract that they presented to the city. And that the city still had to pay the money regardless of whether the sheriff's department fulfilled their obligation or not. That was the original contract that was given to the city. That's what started all the negativity. We're not willing to do that. Okay? I'm not against working with the sheriff's department on a countywide solution. I'm not against John Day paying his fair share of a countywide solution. That is not a countywide solution, what's in the budget. It doesn't involve any other cities. It doesn't involve the county coming together with a plan to make the whole system better. Okay, that's what I agreed to participate in. I never agreed to just fund the sheriff's department.
Would you like me to play the recording? I mean, look, all right, this is the bottom line here, all right? We're putting money aside so that we can have, as a city, we can have an officer within this city to protect our citizens, to watch after us, to take care of our ordinances, to do us. We have not worked out an agreement, but we can't work on an agreement if we don't put the money aside.
And I have the right to my opinion and you have the right to yours.
Right,
And we don't need to sit there and argue about our opinions.
okay, but I
Okay,
just want to
and
make
it
it
doesn't need to
clear
be a
what we're
nasty-
doing.
A nasty back and forth.
Okay,
I voiced my opinion
okay,
and I dropped it.
okay. It's dropped, so we're clear on why we're putting the money aside. Or to discuss with the sheriff's department to have an officer for John Day. Okay, I just want to make that clear, because I don't think that was made perfectly clear. So that's what and now that we're done with that, are there any other issues in the budget that the council has to talk about? And if not, I will call for a motion on accepting the budget.
Council President, I'll move that the council adopt the FY 24-25 budget as stated in our packet.
Please read the resolution number.
This is just
This
the.
This is just the adoption of the budget.
Yeah, adoption, the resolution
The
24.
resolutions will come next.
This is just to adopt the proposed budget.
Oh, with the resolution, we adopt the budget, and then we'll approve, adopt the resolution after that.
So we're not going in the order you have here on your agenda. A, B, C, D.
Let me make sure I got that right.
Sure, I got that.
Yeah, so because I think Chris might be right.
Yeah.
Just
You
do it,
just
yeah.
do the resolution.
Just right.
Sorry, my
Sorry.
bad. You
So,
told me.
I misunderstood. All right, so I move that we approve resolution 24-909-01, a resolution to adopt FY 24-25 budget.
Since we've already had discussion, is there any
We got
discussion?
a second.
Is there a second?
I can second.
Okay, Ron seconds that. Any discussion? Okay. I'm gonna, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Chris and David are nay.
Okay. Council President, I move that we approve resolution 24-910-02, a resolution to accept state shared revenues.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passed unanimously. Next,
Council President, I move that we approve resolution 24-911-03, a resolution to impose taxes for FY 24-25.
Second.
Eric makes the motion, Dave seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Unanimous?
And I move to approve resolution 24-912-04, a resolution to appropriate the FY 24-25 budget.
Any discussion? A
Second.
second,
All second.
thank you.
Then you can discuss.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes. Don't we have to put down a tax rate per thousand somewhere in this?
That was the
That
imposed
is,
taxes.
yeah.
We did on 9/11/03.
Okay, I didn't hear how much we were imposing.
It's written into the resolution,
Oh, okay.
which I think you guys have.
Yeah.
I don't have a copy.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Dave votes no. The rest vote yes. Okay. All right, now that that's over with, city manager. Would you like to say a few minutes, please?
Real quick, just so the council and the public know, I am going to be attending the OCCMA conference up in Hood River, for the next 3 days, so, it's actually going on right now, and we have this meeting, so I'll be driving up tomorrow and make it for the last day, which is a, basically city manager know-how, where I'm gonna get training, learn all the new things coming out, so I'm excited about that. And then I'll drive back on, be here on Friday, in the afternoon. So I wanted you all to know that. Homeless. As of July 2023, all cities in the state of Oregon were required to adopt camping ordinances. And it came out of a court case, to a couple of court cases. Grants Pass was one of them. It's a Supreme Court ruling. There is some fabulous, I don't know if you all had League of Oregon Cities Patty come, she's the director now, but she was the league attorney. She came in, was going to all the cities and doing actually town halls and explaining the court case and what it meant, what cities could and couldn't do, which is really good for your citizens, because it's really hard when you come to council or you come to city hall and you say, there's people camping out there, move them, they're right by my fence or they're right by my property. And our hands are really tied. The Supreme Court just really kind of messed it up for the cities. But if not, we can try, there's video on it. Maybe we'll show it one night at a meeting or something. It's really, it's great. She takes it down to where you can understand the ruling and what happened. In that, we should have had a camping ordinance, and it's time, place, and manner of where people could go. They have to be on city property. You can't just tell them they have to go on other people's property. You have to allow for the homeless to be somewhere. Basically, the Supreme Court said people have a right to sleep and a right to do what bodily needs they need to do. They have a right to stay warm. It's a actually right, constitutional right. And so, we don't have an ordinance. My understanding, the council never adopted a camping ordinance, which means literally we cannot enforce anything, because we don't have an ordinance. If we had adopted an ordinance, it would have time, place, manner, and we could put parameters and we could make, tell people they have to leave this place, but they could go to this place, they could be at this place for so much time. So we really, our hands are tied at this point. I have already talked to the attorney on the phone. I've got a copy of the draft ordinance. Say this out loud, I hope he doesn't watch it. I'm not a fan. They could be, there's a little more stricter you could be, and cause people to move around, and not have to be that as their home. So we'll be working on it. Long way to say, yes, this city needs to adopt an ordinance. And so we'll be working on that. I don't know if you want to take questions or not. This is kind of a
Well,
end of the meeting.
yeah.
You're certainly welcome to call me or come visit me. We can talk more about that. And then if it's the council wish to have, the Patty, speech, or the viewing, you can go probably look it up on the LOC website, but if you want to have it actually where we can come in, we can do some popcorn, cookies or something and have a viewing, and maybe she's got it recorded and we can watch it. It really is excellent.
I
Had her
think
come to
that
my
would
other
be
city and she did a great job, so.
Melissa, who's in charge while you're gone?
Who's in charge?
Yeah.
I'm only gone for 1.5 days, 2 days. I would assume Casey would be for the most part.
So you designated Casey?
Dawn could
Have
be,
have you designated somebody?
no.
Usually they do that.
It depends on what the question is. I'm not going away forever. It shouldn't,
Why
the
do you
wheels
say
shouldn't
that?
come off. I'll have my cell phone. It should be okay. I'll think about that and I'll let you know. I'll send you guys an email.
And do we have cameras facing that area?
Yes.
Okay.
But we do know it's a problem. We're gonna work on it. I assume the council's gonna wanna make that a priority.
Yes.
I'm assuming, but I assume. So we'll work on it.
Any comments from the counselors?
Yeah, couple questions, Melissa. I know that the budget's been a nightmare and everything. Appreciate your work on it, but there's some other important issues that are kind of time sensitive. That haven't been on the agenda for a while, and just hoping they come on the agenda really soon. The 2 buildings that the city owns, one in Seneca, one in John Day. That the Cyber Mill people wanting the city to release ownership of the John Day building. There are some people apparently interested in purchasing it. They want to get the Cyber Mill going and be able to spend the grant money that they have and do that. It's time sensitive for them. I think it needs to be kind of a priority. And then the EDA grant is somewhat time sensitive. That money, has to be spent by a certain period and done by a certain timeline. I don't want to see the city missing out, its timeline. So I think if it takes council decision, it needs to be on the agenda as at least an update for the council
Yeah,
in the near future.
there really isn't any updates, but we are working on it. So I just found out, I'll just tell you, since you asked, the properties, we've been working on it with the attorney, and so we'll have something for council. My priority was the Seneca, to start that sale, because it involves, some other things that you'll find, that you'll hear about. And so my priority was to get that sold first, because it also coincides with some other time sensitive documents, with another, anyway, you'll hear about that. So we are working on it. It isn't gone away. In fact, it's probably gonna be on your July 28th agenda. And so, as far as the grants, Nick and I have been working on those. They have not dropped. We just found out there was some issue with, whether or not we could not have to go through the procurement process with the person or the company that was doing that had done all the plans originally, kind of like what happened with our engineer. So we had to get confirmation from the attorney that we didn't have to go through the procurement process, that we could use that engineer for the BTAP grant and continue on. Just got that today. So, things are happening and we are moving and we're gonna be, procuring them to finish out that grant and then start. We should be okay there. So, we're working on.
Thank you.
Some lease building.
I went out to, the second, first company.
Yep.
And this week. So hopefully they'll sign it this week.
Oh, one other one, the greenhouse.
Green,
The greenhouse. The council had accepted a letter of intent and lease with option to buy. They approved it. Then of course, everything went to shambles with the city manager and or people that weren't very good at city manager. And the council trying to take care of stuff and the mayor trying to take care of stuff and it got decided by the prior mayor that we weren't gonna do that we needed to get an appraisal. So she stopped the process on that agreement. And then apparently never got the appraisal. I've never seen an appraisal. Council, as far as I know, has never seen an appraisal. So basically we're out 24 or whatever $1,000 a year that we could have had that would have made the loan payment through that lease option to buy for the last 2 or 3 years. So that greenhouse is sitting there unproductive and it shouldn't be. It should have been, I mean, that agreement should have been followed through with. And so it's still sitting there and there doesn't seem to be any discussion or forward progress on what to do about it. And if we need to advertise it, that it's for lease, sale, option to buy, whatever, get it back in production. It should have been in production 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And it should have never been stopped by the person who stopped it. They didn't have the authority to do that. But we're still in the same boat, I guess is my issue. And my issue is that we need to put that on the priority list too, to get something going with that so that it's not sitting there. It's a sore subject with the public because of the condition that it's in. If it was up and running and somebody was leasing it or buying it and it was producing, it would be an asset to the community instead of an irritation to the community. And I think that because of that reason, if for no other, you know, and it's costing us $20-some thousand a year in a loan payment that we shouldn't be paying. I mean, we should be able to lease it out and or sell it. So I'm just asking you to throw that on your
well,
list of things to do.
so, I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that it was gonna have purple pipe. It was Class A water that was gonna feed it, and it was not Class A water.
That wasn't in the agreement though. I mean, as a stipulation.
Yeah, so
For the
I'm just
agreement
telling you
to
what I know since I got here. And then I did have somebody approach me right after I got here that was wanting to lease it. And I said, great, bring, you know, a business plan. I'll approach council. They can talk about it. Never came back. So I don't know what'll pencil out in that, but to your point, this is your body right here that directs me. So if you all want me to work on that or do something, I think you need to tell me exactly what you want to have done. And it needs, I mean, you need to tell me if you want to have a workshop. Do you want me to start working on doing, what do you want me to do specifically? Because the priority list you know, what, I've got properties we're trying to sell, I've got budgets, I got, you know, I have a list on my, we're still doing union negotiations. I mean, where, what do you want me to do? You guys tell me.
Listen,
Yeah,
I believe one counselor can put an item on the agenda.
you can put it on the agenda for sure. For sure.
I would suggest that might be where to go.
Okay,
Put it on the next agenda.
July 9th.
Whatever they do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Dave.
Like I say,
Yeah.
We need to do
I
something.
just need to be directed
it
by the
doesn't have to happen
council.
in a week. I just think it's one of the things that's being
It
pushed
is.
back.
It
And it's one of the things that shouldn't be being pushed back because it's costing us money, because it's a sore irritation with a fair amount of the public. And it could be a productive asset to the community versus an empty building right now. I had kind of a similar issue. You gave us an update on that with the Iron Triangle shop.
Mhm.
You
Oh,
know,
I agree
that
with
should have
that.
never gone on that long. And I realize it's not your fault. I'm just saying that, you
No,
know,
I wholeheartedly agree.
that should have been leased within the first month that it was awarded to that person. And if they didn't follow through, then, you know, we should have done something sooner. And I guess those are the types of things that I'm not seeing coming up on the agenda. And so, you know, it causes me concern on if there's anything being done with it. So,
Please email me and ask, and I can put it on the agenda. If council agrees, and I can give you an update anytime you want.
I see Bruce Ward's here. I'd like to personally thank him personally for all he does to keep the Mill Corner happy. And also Hill Street Park. Very, very. Thank you.
Bruce also put the sign up, the welcome to, is it welcome to our town? Yeah. On the mill.
that was all I.
Okay. If there's no further business. Anybody?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Adjourned. I don't have to vote on it.
Okay, I'll provide you with-
Okay.